Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's webinar for the ISO 27001 2022 transition. My name is James Keenan, and I'm the NQA Business Unit Lead for Information Security, including data protection and business continuity. Joining me today is David Nutbrown. David, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yep, so hi everybody, David Nutbrown, as James said, and I'm NQA's Principal Assessor for ISO 27001. So in layman's terms, that just means that I take the technical lead for all things 27001 here in the business. Got a couple of decades InfoSec experience behind me, and I've worked in both the public and private sector over the years. I've been with NQA now for approaching 2 years. James, back to you.
All right, thank you, David. Right, together we're going to discuss what the changes are in the standard, what's required, by when on that transition timeline, and with an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. Our names are on the screen just now, so don't be shy, look us up on LinkedIn and stick a join, and we'll be happy to try and assist where we can at any point. You'll also see us posting other material up there. So if everybody's sitting comfortably, we'll start. Okay, back here. So first, and for those who aren't aware, NQA is a world-leading certification body with operations all over the globe. We have a particular focus in the technology and engineering sectors, and as you can see from the slide, we are top 3 in a number of sectors in the busiest regions for those particular sectors, including top 3 in the UK for the standard we're here for today, ISO 27001. On screen at the moment, some of the areas we specialise in, and to back up and assist with all those, we have a range of tailored training to suit your requirements on whatever standard you're interested in. Please do go and check out the webpage or contact us for any details at all for the training. Okay. So the evolution of ISO 27001 is shown on the timeline here, and the adjustments, additions and bolt-ons have been added to reflect the fast-changing information security landscape of that particular time. The title of the standard has also changed over time, and the new title is Information Security, Cyber Security, Asset Protection and Information Security Management Systems Requirements. A snappy title, and really all that's shown is that there is that clear interdependency nowadays between information security, cyber and data protection. First of all, why the change? Well, the table shows the sort of things that were at the top of people's minds in a security sense in 2013 and what that landscape looks like now. Before, it was all about annoyance and disruption. Attacks being way less organised and resourced than today. Today, we hear continually about the industrialisation and sheer value of successful cyber attacks to the criminals and nation states that are completing those attacks. Personal data is worth so much to the bad guys, and it is everywhere. Only yesterday, there was a news article about fraud born out of cyber attacks using technology to steal money on a massive global scale. I'm sure you've seen it. If not, I think it was on the BBC, nice and handy for anyone to miss it. Okay, now on to the changes. When you first look at the standard, not a lot of changes jump out from the Annex SL clauses 4 to 10, but there is in fact a number of small and not unexpected adjustments. These adjustments are designed to remove ambiguity and align to the similar areas of the other ISO standards, such as 9001. In fact, the changes reflect what we have seen the information security management systems evolve toward on our audits as best practice has been adopted. We don't expect aligning your ISMS to the new Annex SL to be overly onerous, but we are about to publish a gap analysis tool to assist you. An extract of that is on screen now, detailing particularly clause 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Previously, it was about determining interested parties and their requirements, and now it adds the need to detail which of these requirements you are going to address in your ISMS. Now, the area with the most amount of differences, Annex A. The 14 old control groups we all know and love no longer exist. So the last time you might be seeing them is on the screen now. They've been condensed into what's on screen at the moment. 4 new controls, which within them detail 93 controls instead of the old 114, which are all further designated as either preventative, detective, or corrective controls, with by far the majority being in the preventative camp, which I suppose is easy to expect. You may recognise some similarities in the other security frameworks and methodologies that we sometimes come across, which will of course make it easier to align them. 11 controls are new, and David will cover them in a bit with the rest, consolidated or condensed. A perfect example is change control, going from 4 controls to 1 all-encompassing control in the new version. And now on to David for a look at those newer controls in depth. David, you might be on mute.
How was that? I think that's better. Thanks very much, James. So as you've just heard, the 2022 edition of 27001 has indeed introduced 11 new controls. And I think you'll agree that these new controls, they're all sensible. And indeed, the majority of today's audience may already have implemented one or more of them as your management systems have matured over time. So I imagine most of you will even be wondering why some of these controls weren't introduced earlier. So the controls on your screen, as you can see, we've got 3 organizational controls up there at the top: threat intelligence, information security for the use of cloud services, and ICT readiness for business continuity. We also have 1 new physical control, which is the physical security monitoring, and a number of controls under A8, which is the group there for technical controls. And they are config management, information deletion, data masking, data leakage prevention, monitoring activities, web filtering, and secure coding. Now, I'm not going at this point to give you a full breakdown of each of these controls. I'm pretty sure that most of you have already been aware of them for some time, may even have most of these controls implemented already. What I will do is I'm going to talk through 5 of these new controls, and hopefully while I talk through them, I'm going to highlight why, when added to a formalized framework, these controls dovetail, becoming mutually beneficial, supportive, and interdependent. Next slide, please, James. Cool. So the first control I want to draw your attention to, it's 5.23, and that's information security for the use of cloud services. Now, over recent years, we at NQA have noted a trend that our clients have been migrating to the cloud. And I guess that we aren't the only ones noticing this. We've also noted that cloud migration has been somewhat expedited due to the recent pandemic, especially with that need for workforces to be able to work from home seamlessly being at the forefront of a lot of companies' thinking. Now, there are numerous ways in which you may embrace the cloud, whether that be the use of software as a service, clean, simple, no infrastructure, physical or logical to maintain, nothing that you sort of own or maintain within your organization anyway. You'd be really familiar with this setup. You use a web portal or an application to access a service, and the SaaS provider gives you somewhere to store, view, and manipulate your data. You may choose to go completely in the opposite direction and implement and upkeep a bare metal setup in a data center's co-location hall, or even set up your own private cloud hosted internally. In truth, we estimate that around 80% of organizations have implemented some form of intermediary between the two, for a fully hybrid approach. And as such, it's easy to appreciate why this control has been needed. Well, it's been much needed for some time. A common pitfall that we see with cloud migration is that in the race to be in the cloud, some of the basics can be forgotten. So it's important to understand to what degree you as an organization will be deploying cloud services. And when it comes to shared responsibilities, it's absolutely vital that you determine which security tasks are to be handled by your cloud provider and which should be handled by yourself. Now, the major cloud providers are all quite open. They've got their own shared responsibility models and they publish these on their websites. It's well worth a quick look to see exactly where you stand. And the next control I want to talk about briefly, it's 8.12, and this is data leakage prevention. So wherever your information is stored and however it's accessed, the most integral part of DLP, data leakage prevention, is actually knowing what data you have, knowing where it's stored, and knowing how it's to be accessed. And I hope you can already understand some of the overlap here with that previous control over cloud provision. In particular, who's responsible for security of your data when it's in the cloud? Now, you should be asking, have you, as an organization, implemented and tested processes to prevent data leakage? Be these physical or technical controls. Have you deployed data leakage prevention software on your estate? And does this monitor, detect, block and alert the unauthorized sharing of data, whether that data be in transit or indeed at rest? Next slide, please, James. Brilliant tab. So those with the keener ears may have picked up on my use of the word monitor a few seconds ago. And this leads us nicely to the next new Annex A control that I want to discuss, which is 8.16, and that's monitoring activities. I'm going to read this control verbatim here. So the control reads, networks, systems and applications should be monitored for anomalous behavior and actions taken to evaluate potential information security incidents. Now cast your mind back to the 2013 edition. There's a section in there on event logging. Quite a decent section, I think there's about 4, 5, 6 controls. And it focuses here mainly on access to and protection of log information. It states that event logs shall be produced, that they shall be kept, they shall be regularly reviewed. But now, fast forward, ISO 27001 2022, we're introduced to the idea of anomalous behaviors, and therefore to the idea of baselining. So what I mean here is, we need to understand the norm in order to spot the abnormal, and therefore to spot the stage, the early stages of any potential cyber attacks. A question that you might wish to ask yourself when it comes to monitoring activities is, do I know what my expected network activity looks like on any given Friday morning at, say, 11:17? So it's by monitoring our networks and by being alive to and alerted of those anomalies, that we will be able to spot and stop data leakage. Again, demonstrating controls which may be listed individually, but have dependencies elsewhere in the standard. Now, as a safety blanket to be thrown over all of these controls, we must also have an understanding of those threat actors, those that are really pertinent to our organizations, you know, and this could be directly to us as an organisation, to our supply chain. You've got to think here, where's the perceived weakest link in the supply chain, up, down, you know, and sideways here. So really sort of important point here, you know, really understand those threat actors. Next up, you know, we need to understand the threat vectors, those vectors that they use to attack us, and the threat landscape that we present them with. Now, with this knowledge, and with an understanding of what data we hold, where it's stored, and how we access and share it, we can then move on to another new control, which is 5.7 threat intelligence, up there on the sort of right hand side of the screen. Now, given everything that I've just mentioned and the things that I've been talking through over the last sort of 5-10 minutes, you should, as an organisation, now have a much firmer understanding of your intelligence requirements, whether they be to understand and be alerted to new and emerging cyber tactics, techniques and procedures, the latest malware signatures, indicators of compromise, or even shared industry knowledge of current threats being posed to your competitors. Now, sometimes we might have to think slightly outside the box here. So articulation of your requirements, gathering of relevant information, and analysis of this information relevant to the backdrop of your organisation will give you valuable insight into the current threat picture and how that threat picture relates to you. Now, as a basic rule of thumb, I've always used what I call the so what test. What's that mean? So if you're looking at a piece of information and there's no so what, if you're sat there thinking, well, okay, what does this mean to me? Then what you're doing is you're sat there looking at information, you don't have intelligence in front of you. Let me try and contextualize this just a little bit. So cast your minds back to December last year. Some of you may have read something in the press or on Twitter, or even, you know, as emails from friends in industry that said, just to let you know, Log4j has got a major vulnerability. Right, that in itself, it's information. It adds nothing. It's just pure information. Now, if you read later on, Log4j is only found in Java applications. Even that's just information. You know, Log4j is found in Java applications and has a major vulnerability. At this point, it's still information. So to turn that into intelligence, let's flip it around a little bit. You now read something that's been sent to you or that's been analysed internally that says Java-based applications that haven't been patched since update XYZ contain a known Log4j vulnerability. We use JavaScript within our enterprise. We might be compromised. We probably need to act. That's intelligence. And that's what I really would like to get across. My message here in this little section is the difference between presenting our assessors with information and actual intelligence. So, slide please. Now, the fifth and final new control that I'm going to concentrate on this morning is up here on your screen now. It's 5.30, and that's ICT readiness for business continuity. Now, this is really important control, and it's good to see. You know, I was actually really pleased to see this when it came out in the latest edition of 27001. What was good to see is that the business continuity focus has now been put upon the readiness of your ICT, something which was previously alluded to, but it was not quite spelled out in the 2013 edition. And with all the best controls in the world, it's important to acknowledge that we may at some time be required to operate under business continuity conditions. And this is equally important that you as an organisation have planned, have implemented, have maintained and have tested your ICT readiness. It's important that you understand your ICT continuity requirements and that you understand, in the instance that you're operating in the cloud, whose responsibility it is to ensure your business continuity of ICT. So there we are, straight into that shared responsibility model in the cloud again. So I'm thinking here, guaranteed downtime agreements with your cloud supplier, replication and mirroring of information. Do you know how often you're replicated, where your secondary backup is? You know, are you being mirrored? And also those really important restore point and restore time objectives. And then another consideration, really, in order to satisfy the requirements of this control, and this one's been commonly overlooked in the past as well, it's the need to be testing your readiness requirements. Now think everything from a simple desktop exercise right the way up to multi-strand, complex black swan type scenarios, where ensuring that the confidentiality, integrity and availability of your information and information systems in testing conditions is paramount. Now, I often say, I'll sit with clients and I'll ask the question, do you ever sit in your team and ask the question, what would happen if? Now, and my argument here is, when you're having those questions, what would happen if we lose power here? What would happen if, you know, our internet service provider goes down for 24 hours? At this point, start capturing these conversations. So you're already talking business continuity. You're already talking. You're the really sort of early stages at this point of simple desktop exercise, and record these informations, record your findings. So again, the support and the interdependencies of other controls was evident here, and the loop back here in business continuity and ICT to the beginning of this conversation and the information security for the use of cloud services seems a really nice way to leave these new controls for now. So slide, please. So what other considerations do you need to be aware of when implementing your ISO 27001/2022? This latest version of the standard and its guidance document, ISO 27002, make reference to the use of something called attributes. Oh, back on. There we go. And attributes, they're simply a method for labeling and sorting your controls and your risks. There are 5 types of attributes mentioned in the guidance document, and they are control type, information security properties, cybersecurity concepts, operational capabilities, and security domains. These are not prescriptive. You might even wish to use your own attribute groupings as you see fit. But it must be noted here that attributes are also not mandated. So if you choose not to use them, we won't be marking you down in any way whatsoever. However, you know, I may well be asking you why you've chosen not to implement such a useful tool. Then the next consideration here, it's your risk assessments and your risk treatments. You know, we all know risk assessments is the glue that holds your management system together. And as such, the implementation of the new controls will inevitably lead to new or amended risk treatments, risk assessments, risk treatments, and risk treatment plans being put together. And then once you've updated your risk assessments, you've got your risk treatment plan sorted, they're going to inform an updated statement of applicability. So the 2022 edition still has a requirement for a statement of applicability and for it to be documented. So the reorganization of Annex A alone should trigger a complete rehash of your SOA. We will expect that you've listed your necessary control, you know, as we always have done here, you know, list your necessary controls, justify your control inclusion and exclusion. And here, you know, if you're excluding any controls, just put a real robust justification for any of those exclusions in. And then we'll expect you to know whether the controls have been implemented or not. So SOA, yes, it'll look different, but our expectations are largely the same there. So I'll now hand you back to James. James, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, David, and thanks for that in-depth look. And I'm hoping what David just went through didn't sound too daunting to anyone on the call. It's how the biggest businesses and sort of governments have been doing doing things for a while, how they've been protecting networks and services. And it's just about, you know, replicating that and trickling it down to everyone nowadays. In fact, you probably have the tools and services already, and this really will just unlock the power of them and allow you to get a lot more value out of what you've, in many cases, already paid for. And just to cover that, it really does, you know, we've seen a lot of our clients when we're out auditing that are doing things like this already that just aren't part of the standard. It's where security and protecting our networks and services have really moved to. So the new standard just really reflects that, and having that sort of forward look that using actionable or actioning intelligence and actually using it and getting the most out of it is where we can make the most difference. Like, you know, being those sort of giraffes on the plains looking out all over to see what's coming at us, you know, from far away, and being able to act upon it before it gets there and causes us and our customers any damage. So moving on now, the transition. I just need to pause every single slide as they come up because they're an auto move, so apologies for that. I think it was a bit of a different screen breakdown a second ago. So anyway, yeah, the transition period began on release of the new standard, which gives us all here till the end of October 2025 to gain that new standard certificate. As an accredited certification body, we here at NQA have to be cleared by UCAS. We have to be signed off to certify to that new standard. And that's the steps we're going through right now. So while we're doing that, you can prepare your ISMS, you can embed all those changes that we've just seen, and ensure that we have the objective evidence on our visits to see and to get you signed off to that 2022. If, however, you're ready for certification now and you need 27,000, you know, don't delay on that. If it's if you're ready to go, be in contact. We can still certify to 2013, and that will allow you then to unlock all the benefits of that, be it from just advising your customers that you run to a recognised high quality standard, or indeed to get those bids in and win those bids that are requiring 27,000. So as the slide says, we will be in touch to plan your journey, and that's if you already hold and you are a customer of ours. It's best to complete transition at recertification, which we expect that we'll start from spring 2023 onwards. And we're aiming to complete all those transitions 6 months before the final date of October 2025. If you're not currently with NQA or not yet holding 27001, please contact us and we'll get you scheduled in to suit whatever your requirement may be on that timeline. Okay, rules here on the screen on transition. So, like I said, best to do it at recertification. Can be done at surveillance, though it just depends on that one. Certification will be granted in alignment with your existing cycle. So the previous valid until date is going to be maintained if you transition at surveillance, whereas doing it at recertification gives you that full 3 years cycle. All of which can be discussed as part of the plan and when we're in contact with you. Again, some of the sort of guidelines and rules around what you need to do to prepare for that recertification, that transition journey. Clients are strongly encouraged, it says here, to complete that management review and that internal audit to 2022. The gap analysis that we've built up to now will be very useful in helping you to do that. And we will accept that as a minimum, that you've completed your gap analysis with our tool and indeed reviewed that output with your top management and made sure you've taken action on anything that's been found at that point. As I said there, the gap analysis is mandatory to show that you're covering all those things and you've thought about it. Again, there'll be so many things that weren't in scope, that weren't in 2013, that are now in 2022, but a lot of these things you'll be doing, you've just never had to detail them in the way that's there. So, like I said, hopefully not too onerous. Okay, so bit of a sort of whistle-stop tour through the transition. Obviously, there's more in-depth training available, but at this point, it'd be great to answer any questions that are coming from some of the audience here at all just now. I believe you can submit your questions into the deck there at the slide. I'm just seeing now. I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. Did you spot any questions there coming in?
Right, there are some questions coming in. It's just really teeny tiny on the PC.
Right, okay. So I can see some things actually flashing. Can we share the slides? Yes, I'm sure we can get those up onto our web page. And again, there'll be a lot of detail on there, both already and future releases that are coming in. What we'll do is we'll review these questions that are coming in incredibly small and very quick text at the moment. And what we'll do is we will answer all those questions by way of a post thereafter as well. David, are you seeing any questions just now?
I am, yes. So I've got here, do all current NQA customers get a copy of the gap analysis template to use? Yes, you will. Once that's been finalised and approved, and essentially your client executive, your liaison into NQA will be in touch with the plan to transition you, and at that point we'll get access to that gap analysis tool across to you. So yes, all our current NQA 27001 customers will have access to that gap analysis template or tool.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. I've just saw one flashing that was big enough there. Should I go for 2022? I think the simple answer on that one is yes, because I think what it will really do is help you to identify and protect against all the things that we've seen growing and happening now out in the cyber world, but also being as flexible a framework as ISO is now. It'll really assist you into the future to adapt your sort of posture as any new threats and developments happen within that space. So I would say definitely, but certainly I think by the time you get a chance to have a look, you'll see those benefits are quite clear. Any other question?
Yep, so I've got, how would you approach developing a risk-based internal audit program for the standards requirements? I mean, it's a tough one without knowing your own business, knowing each business. But essentially, obviously, we know we do have that requirement to perform internal audits in line with a program. And it's great here that you did say risk-based, because I'm a massive fan of risk-based internal audits. So for me, if we're talking about transitioning, how would I develop my internal audit schedule based around transition into the new standards? My focus, certainly during the implementation period, would be towards those new controls, definitely. So I would go heavy on them during the implementation phase. Now, some of them will bed in seamlessly, no doubt. Others will have teething problems. And this is where I'd just revisit those controls, as you say, in a completely risk-based sort of manner here. James, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I just think, the important bit is the risk-based. It's standing, it goes through, it's sort of what underpins the whole 27001, and allows you as a business to demonstrate your sort of maturity in that space. So I think, the risk-based part is just integral to that. Other than that, no, thank you very much, David, for answering that one.
Cool. I've got one, and I think this is one for you here, James. So how applicable still is ISO 27017 in light of the new 27001? So this is the PIMS question, isn't it?
I think that's more sort of the cloud one, but I think it's all sort of relevant. I think that yes, we're seeing a lot more inclusion for, as we mentioned, data protection, cloud, and all those sort of things that are and still continue to be bolt-ons for 27,000. And it's about that, bigger depth and providing that sort of management system specifically for, and that framework specifically for demonstrating your control on privacy. If anything, it still is applicable to build upon that and really put that rigor of control around. So I don't think they're going anywhere, or at least that's not what we're hearing. And still definitely would add value if you've got them, or indeed looking to bolt them on, as would any of the business continuity type standards as well there.
Yeah, cool. So I've got another one here. Our existing 27001 is due for a 3-year reset in May or June 2023. Should we be looking to transition in 2023 for the reset? Short answer, if it were me, I would, yes. So we aim to be transitioning anybody who's resetting post sort of spring 2023 onto the new version of the standard. We still, we don't have an exact date, yet, but definitely sort of May into June. I would say yes, but speak to your client executive before the reset is booked to just get the exact lay of the land there.
Cool. Thank you. There's a question around gap analysis.
Sorry. Yeah, have to use gap analysis form if they have their own. So yes, we're developing this one as part of our own accreditation to deliver these audits, and that tool is integral to our own accreditation to UCAS there. So yes, please.
Yeah, and obviously, as a available resource to you from the web page and things, so it can only really help with your running alongside your own gap analysis, in fact. So there's no reason to develop or go aside from that. The gaps will be the gaps, and if you use our one, it follows along our process. Thank you. So look, we've got a question here about timeline. So obviously a lot of that depends on being signed off by UCAS and everything, but we're projecting, yes, springtime 2022 that we'll be able to convert onto that one.
2023.
Sorry, what was that? Yeah, 23. It's because I read 2022 on the screen. Yeah, so certification, somebody here at Reg has said they received certification this year. So first of all, congratulations on that. It's no small feat, as we all know, on this call. Probably, you'll be thinking, when's the soonest time we can do that? Well, what I would say is just, as we've been going for, get in contact with our team, and we'll schedule in the right time to suit yourself to convert over to 2022. But again, congratulations on that one.
Again, will you be informing customers individually about transition dates? I think we've answered that. The answer is yes.
We've had some questions on the gap analysis. Obviously, that's still to be released. We're working on that just now, and it is part of our demonstration with UCAS, etc., that we're following everything there. So when that is completed, we will upload onto the website, and you will see plenty of activity, I'm sure, signposting that for you. Again, another good reason to add us on LinkedIn, etc., and make sure you don't miss when that goes live, which is great. And in the meantime, of course, there is a lot of training material available, and we'll move on to a slide or two that sort of signposts where that's available, that you can sign up to on that one. There's a question here about individually informing customers about transition dates. Yes, that'll all be part of the bespoke plan. We will be in contact with you to do that. David, have you seen any others?
No, I'm just looking through now.
I've got one here that's saying somebody expects to be ready July 2023. Hopefully we will too, and look forward to coming and visiting and completing that audit and successfully getting the 2022 certification. So thank you for that, Michael. Okay.
I think we're just about out of questions. Where are we? So yeah, are there any training packages available for auditors with current ISO 27001 lead auditor qualifications? Yes, there is a training package available, and again, please just contact NQA. We can discuss that and we can book you on. But we are now taking bookings on our lead auditor conversion training.
Okay, thank you for that. And sort of looking through, and I'm conscious that I might miss one or two, but as I said, we will publish the answers as we go.
So we've got one about cost. Is there any additional cost with the gap analysis aspect of this transition? So that's a really good question, actually, and something I'm not sure whether we brought out. So as part of the transition process, you will have a transition audit. Now, the way we see this happening is that it will be part of a planned audit anyway, but the transition aspect, or the gap aspect, is likely to be 1 day. So it's 1 day minimum, and we foresee for the majority of our clients that it will be a 1 day, bolt on to a planned audit. So additional costs. Plan for 1 extra audit day there, but again, this will be completely clarified at point of booking.
Yeah, exactly, David. It's that sort of standard mandatory 1 day, and extra complexity and or size and or what the fit is will be assessed at that point and made aware. But yeah, that is the 1 day minimum extra transition will be bolted onto one of the other audits that we're carrying out there, so it keeps it nice and simple. There's a couple of questions on remote auditing. I think the easiest way to answer that is that the approach is designated by the client as much as anything, and we can provide the sort of blended approach. There is guidance from UCAS, however, about minimum on-site times, and obviously there's a lot of advantage to be seen from being on-site to complete those audits as well, but it'll be tailored and individual to your particular needs or your client's needs. And add on that one, David?
No, so TP14 is the document there essentially that lays out the rules. We're currently looking at a sort of around about 70-30 split, with 70% being on-site, and there will be a requirement for on-site aspects at stage 1, but we can discuss this at the booking in stage definitely.
Cool, thank you, David. See one here about the ICO investigate an ICO investigation preventing certification. As a true data protection professional, I'm going to answer that with it depends. It sort of depends, I think, what it's about, what the investigation is, and certainly something, Jonathan, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation about if you want to reach out individually and maybe give me some or what details you can on that, and we can discuss at the time. But yeah, it really does just depend on what that investigation and what the reason behind that would be.
Yeah. Would it be possible, as part of existing customers 27001 cycle, to be certified to 2022 prior to certification? In short, yes. If you believe your client is ready to go before recertification, we can book a transition in as part of a surveillance visit. However, as James said during the slideshow, your certificate won't reset. Your valid until date will remain in sync with your current certification cycle, but we can, absolutely no reason why we can't do a transition audit as part of that surveillance cycle.
Yeah, cool, thank you there. When a company must transition to ISO, right, so I assume that is the
hard cut off.
Yeah, the hard cut off. So that is the end of the month or 3 years from the end of the month that the new standard was released, which was October 2022. So we've got until the very last day of October 2025. Don't hold off too late on that one though, because we've got to make sure things go smoothly and accepted. But yeah, the absolute final, if you have a certification now to 2013, it will cease to be valid, or indeed if you subsequently came in 2013, it will cease to be valid after the 31st of October 2025. Okay. I think actually looking at the time, we've got about 10 minutes to go here, unless you have anything absolutely burning question-wise there, David, that you've seen.
No, I think we're pretty good. What we can do, James, is we'll look through this. If there were any questions that we've missed, should we get our heads together and send out a full answer to everybody, or maybe create a blog answering these questions?
I think, David, that's a great idea. What I think we should do is maybe get together, get all these questions, and even for those that we've answered here just now, we'll sort of group them up, because I think there are a couple repeated, and we'll answer those questions directly and get that onto the NQA website, and like as part of a blog or something. But I think it's really important for even those that weren't here today that we answer every single question again, that we can group and go for it from there. So yeah, I think we can go. Right, okay, let's...
Do you want to call the Q&A then, go through the final slides then?
I think so, David. I think we can do that just now. Let me just get rid of the panel there. And yeah, so as we mentioned, there is training available to help you in this. The training courses are available, and they are now, in fact, they are booking up real fast. So do not hesitate to get onto that website and get some training booked in to help you even further, and of course a far deeper view than what we provided today in this overview. There's all sorts of support available, as we mentioned. The key to that is the website. You can sign up to our newsletter, which you'll get regularly through there, covering all the sort of new topics and various blogs and things. But there's so much content on the website to keep you busy there. I recommend you go for a look. And of course, if you want to get in touch to discuss your particular scenario and situation there, do give us a call on the number on the screen, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. And as mentioned before, we're on LinkedIn, so don't be shy to reach out there as well. And just a final thank you from myself here and David, just for everyone who attended. Really appreciate your giving up part of your Friday to come along in such numbers, and we'll be back in touch with answers to those questions. And in the meantime, if you have any more questions, please don't be shy in submitting those, and we'll add those to the pile and we'll get them all answered in due course. But until the next webinar, it's thank you and goodbye from me and David.
Yeah, thank you and goodbye from me as well. Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you later. Bye now.